Hello all, I'm Sai and you're watching The Book Dragon. In today's video, I'm bringing to you the top 10 fiction books which I read in 2021. I also have a video talking about the top 10 non-fiction books which I read in 2021 also. It will be released after this one. If you want to know my surprising reads and disappointing reads of 2021, they are already out on the channel. I'll try to link them down in the description and also somewhere up in the screen. You can check it out if you're interested. I went for top 10 this year because I just wanted to talk about the best of the best books which I read in the past year. So without any further ado, let's get into the books right away. I'm going to start at number 10 and count my way down to number 1. So at number 10 we have an adult contemporary romance. It is Beach Read by Emily Henry. I personally love this book very much and I recommend you to read this book in the summer time because it's a summer romance, and I read this in September. Even then it was very much enjoyable. Since summer is also around the corner in 2 or 3 months, I'd highly recommend you to put this on your TBR because you'll have such a great time. I usually don't read that many romances because it's not my favorite genre and mostly I find them very boring. But in the last year I decided to include some romance books in my reading list because I was reading a lot many fantasy books, and sometimes because they are huge I just went into a reading slump. So I wanted to refresh myself by reading something easy and comfortable. So I just went forward and picked this book up. Here we follow our two main characters, January and Augustus, and both of them are writers. January is a romance writer and Augustus is a literary fiction writer, and both of them are dealing with writer blocks right now, and they've also been college mates in the past. So they've decided to swap the genres and write the book from the other genre and see who gets published first. Throughout the book we get the pasts of both the characters narrated properly in this one. There are also a few steamy scenes here and there, but as a whole the book is really great and the character work for both the characters is awesome. It's not just a romance, it's more than that. So I'd highly recommend this one. At number 9 we have a book that is between genres. I can say that this book is a concoction of literary fiction, philosophy and mysticism, and I'm talking about The 40 Rules of Love by Elif Shafak. Even though the title of the book says that it's the 40 rules of love, the book is not about love in a romantic sense but love in the purest form. More than anything I can say that this book is about self-love and learning to love yourself for the person that you are, because that's the greatest gift that you can give yourself. Here we follow a main character, Ella Rubinstein, who's a 40-year-old mother and she takes care of her husband and 3 children at her home, and she's not that much satisfied with the way that she's leading her life because it doesn't seem like she's doing anything for herself. So she picks up this online job in order to just edit some of the books, and she receives a copy of one of the books in order to edit. That book just changes her life because she gets to know the story of Rumi and Charms of Tabriz. We switch in between 2 stories and both the stories are super mystical and very philosophical. If you, just like myself, thought that this is a romance book from the title of the book, please don't think that. It is very philosophical and mystical in every way, and every time I picked this book up I could feel myself being in that place because of the beautiful writing of the author. I'm sure that I'm going to read a lot more books by this author in the future because she has a big backlist and I just can't wait to read them all. Number 8 we have a literary fiction, and this is literally the most surprising read that I had in 2021 because I received this book for free in one of my sponsored videos, and when I read the book I was totally shaken because I did not expect it to be that great. I'm sure that if you've been following me for a while you know what this book is. It is Lone Wolf by Jodi Picoult. In this we follow a family of 4 people where the mother and father have divorced and the mother has remarried and has a separate family. The daughter lives along with her father and she is taken care of by him. The son on the other hand is an adult and he's teaching English in Thailand right now. And one day what happens is, when the father and daughter are out in the car, an accident occurs, and because of this the father goes into a coma. Because of this incident the family is brought back together and they have to decide to pull the plug and relieve the father because there is no hope of recovery for him at all. The differences in opinion between the 2 children and the mother and the reasons behind their decisions and the backstories of all these 4 main characters is really intriguing, and I can easily say that this is one of the best written books that I read in 2021. I definitely want to read more books by this author in the future because she also has a very huge backlist. As a whole this was a great treat for me because it was completely character driven and I am a very character driven reader. If you want to know more about this book, I have a full spoiler free review about this one, and if I have reviews for any of the books that I'm talking about in this video, all of them will be linked down in the description. Please do go and check them out if you're interested. At number 7 we have a young adult mystery, and this is also a very surprising read for me. It is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. I cannot say how much I enjoyed this series throughout. There are totally 4 books until now and I don't know whether there will be any more books coming in the future. We have an original trilogy and then a companion book which happens after the trilogy. Here we follow 16-year-old Stevie Bell, who's very much passionate about true crime, and she gets admitted into this prestigious institution called the Ellingham Academy, which takes up only 50 students every year in their high school course, and they are to study there for 2 years. The location of the series is really great because it happens in a hill station and it is mostly always very much chilly and covered with fog, and that just provides the perfect atmosphere that is required for the mystery to progress on. Here also we follow two different plot lines, but they are very similar to each other because our main character is solving a case from the past that is nearly 70 years back, and each and everything that she recovers has not been found at all in the previous 7 decades. I can also say that the main character in this one has become one of my most favorite main characters because she is very much focused and she's not at all annoying at all. The way in which the author has built the character as well as the friends that she has is perfect in every sense because they are all very much highly intellectual and they have their own quirks. The way in which each and every character's talents is put into use in the different books across the series is just awesome, and I'm sure that if the author publishes any more other books in the same universe or the same series itself, I'll be totally reading them. At number 5 we have a high fantasy, and it is The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien, which is the first book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. While I got into the series itself, I was sure that I was going to love this world because it is so rich and descriptive and very much lush, but the extent to which I loved this first book is so much beyond what I expected because the first half of this book is very frustrating for me, but I'd easily read the first half 10 times in order to just read the second half only one time because the amount of pleasure that the second half gave to me was immense because the atmosphere in which the author has written the book is so lush. It is very, very rich. I could actually see every landscape that the author was talking about, and the cold that the characters were experiencing in these landscapes in the second half was felt by me on my skin while I was reading the books. It was that immersive and that atmospheric. And also the Fellowship, the 9 characters inside the Fellowship are just perfect in every sense. Okay, we have every kind of character, we have the perfect balance between them, and the fact that they also don't know that much about each other while they start on this journey but just end up trusting each other because they have no other go also added on a really good flavor for the story. I'm sure that I'm going to read all the other books inside the Middle Earth series also. We'll just have to wait and see. At number 5, we have a young adult fantasy series finale, and it is A Sky Beyond the Storm by Sabaa Tahir. I can say that this series as a whole was a very surprising read for me because I did not expect a lot from it because it felt like a very cliched series like any other young adult series out there. But trust me, this series is out of the world. The first book, that is the first 100 pages of the first book, which is An Ember in the Ashes, alone felt a bit rocky for me, but after the 100-page mark, I just started loving the series, and each and every successive book also just got better and better. Especially this last book just delivered each and every punch that it had to deliver, and the endings that the author gave for each and every character was perfect in every way possible because all the characters here just go through shit again and again. You think that this is the worst thing that can happen to a character, but after that an even worse thing happens, and it just keeps on happening again and again until the end. But it is all worth it towards the climax because she makes it so perfect for each and every one of the characters. Even the plot of the series is really well intricately woven because everything that she talks about in the previous books in the series make complete sense towards the climax. The world is great, the writing is very consistent, and most of all the pacing is so fast that you'll not be able to put down the books at all. As a whole, I just enjoyed this series very much, and I'm sure that I'm going to read any other Sabaa Tahir book that's going to be released in the future. As a whole, this was just a great delight for me. At number 4, we have an adult standalone fantasy, and it is The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang. I read this on Kindle Unlimited and did not purchase a physical copy of this book because it is very expensive here in India. The paperback itself is over 6,000-7,000 rupees, and I'm not ready to pay that much for just a single book. This is a Japanese inspired fantasy which is also kind of urbanized in a way because the world in which we see the story, we have this group of people who are themselves called the Sword of Kaigen, and they take care of this empire using the magic and the skills that they have. Their magic is mostly elemental because they can either manipulate water, air or fire, and each and every type of manipulation is really cool, but mostly we see them manipulating water and the different states of water. The magic system in this one is very cool because I've not read anything as unique as this one in any of the other books that I've read before. The magic is not an important part of the story, but I can say that this one is heavily character driven. We follow two main characters who are Misaki Machura and Mamoru Machura. Misaki is the mother and Mamoru is the son. And this culture which we follow here is also very much sexist in nature because the men are only considered to be warriors and the women are not. They are just considered as homemakers, and that is the tradition over here. More than anything, the best part about this book is the writing of the author because she has such lush writing style, and the way in which she has placed the different parts of the story together. We actually don't get the war towards the ending of the book. We get the war in between the book, that is in the middle part, and the aftermath of the war is the last part of the book. It is very difficult to get through because the way in which she has presented the reality of war and the aftermath of war is so brutal here. If you have Kindle Unlimited, please do give this a try because it is an amazing book, and I personally think that many more people need to read this. At number 3, we have Godsgrave, which is the second book in the Nevernight Chronicles. The Nevernight Chronicles is a grimdark adult fantasy trilogy, and I can say that each and every book in this one is super well written, and the character work is just amazingly good. The plot twists also that occur in the series are totally unpredictable, and they just sweep you off your feet always. It is a very dark series, so please do keep that in mind if you're going to read it, and it is also completely adult. So I'd not suggest anyone who's under 18 to read this because it is so brutal and also so explicit at multiple instances, but it is not at all like unnecessary for the story at all. In order to portray the world in which the story actually takes place, the author has to show us all the details that are happening there. I completely enjoyed all the 3 books. The third book alone was a bit dragged out for me, but apart from that, everything was just perfect for this series. We follow our main character Mia Corvere, who's 16 years old right now, and she's undergoing training in order to become an assassin, in order to avenge the death of her family who were killed by this ruler. I can also easily say that the main character from this one, Mia Corvere, has become one of my all-time favorite characters. Empire of the Vampire is definitely on my 2022 TBR, and I'll definitely be reading it this year. As a whole, the series itself was a very dark and delicious experience for me, and of all the 3 books, I loved this more because it has a gladiator kind of backdrop, and the way in which the author narrated the story in that particular setup was really unique. So that's why this is at number 3. At number 2, we have a literary fiction, and I personally did not expect that this book would end up so high in the list. It is Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. This is my second Fredrik Backman book. Before this one, I read A Man Called Uva, but I can easily say that I love this book more than that one. This book is simply about the world's worst bank robber and the world's worst hostages put together, and it also happens during the holiday season itself. The entire book actually takes place within a 24-hour time span, and we get to know about all the 11 characters that the author focuses in this book. Okay, it's not even 350 pages long, but within that small amount of pages itself, the author just makes us experience the backstory of each and every one of the main characters. It is also a very cozy book, and I can say that I want to just give this book a huge hug and give all the characters in this book a huge hug. After having read this book, I want to read all of the other Fredrik Backman books also that are out there, and I'm definitely sure that I will be reading them. If you're feeling low or sad in some way, please go forward and read this book. I'm sure that it will make your day and life better. And I also personally think that this is one of those books which people need to read in the beginning of the year, because it'll give you a lot more hope, positivity and motivation in order to keep going on with your life, because good things always happen. We just have to keep doing the thing that we are doing without giving up. I know that I'm going so much off track, but I just love this book so much, and it means a lot to me and has a place in my heart always. So that's definitely why this book is very high in this list. Finally, moving on to the position 1, the best book that I read in 2021 is Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare, which is the second book in the Dark Artifices series. I read this in June, and after having finished this book, I thought only one thing: if some book can ever take over this book in the second half of the year, that is definitely going to be my most favorite book of the year. But trust me, I did not read any book that is better than this one throughout the entire year, because this was completely a power-packed punch. I cannot even say that the finale of the series is as good as this book, and it is also the best Shadowhunter book that I've read so far. It is a shame that I don't have a hardcover of this one and have a hardcover for the other 2 books in the series back there. Since it's the second book in the series, I cannot talk a lot about this one because it will give away spoilers, and also in order to read the Dark Artifices, you have to finish the Mortal Instruments and the Infernal Devices. I liked each and every aspect of this book. The plotting was great. I can say that the Dark Artifices has the best plot of all the Shadowhunter series. The character work, just as in any other Cassandra Clare book, is just completely awesome. The romance was super great, and more than anything, the climax of this book is the best cliffhanger that I've read so far. So if you're going to read the series, please do have all the 3 books in your hand, because after finishing this one, you'll not be able to keep yourself from reading the third book. It is that good. So yeah, because of all this gush and reasoning, this is the best book that I read in 2021. So yes guys, those are the top 10 fiction books which I read in 2021. The top 10 non-fiction books will be coming out as the next video, so please do look out for it if you are interested. Also, I want to know your top 10 or top 5 or most favorite books that you read in 2021. Don't forget to leave them also down in the comments. I'd like to take recommendations from you guys. If you did enjoy watching today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.